Okay, good day everyone. We are going to tackle about on Unit 3, the soil and climate adaptation. So first topic is fruit trees, planting, watering, fertilizing, and organic pest control is included. So first, what are the soil requirement for the fruit trees? So soil is a thin outer covering of the earth directly developed by natural forces acting on natural materials. It is a basic medium for plant growth, supplies nutrients for growing plants. So soil is the home of the plant root and the reservoir for essential nutrients and water for its growth and development. So soil, it has nutrients that needed by the plant to grow because it is the one requirement for the plants to grow. Okay, and so we have types of soils on the basis of um, pH or the EC and presence of ESP. The soil are grouped as first the saline, second is alkaline, three is saline alkali, four is acidic. So on the basis of sand, silt, and clay soils are grouped together. So when they are mixed together, we can create sandy, loomy, silt loam, clay, sandy loam, silt, sandy clay loam, and sandy clay. So next. So extreme conditions of top and subsoil, namely very heavy or clayey, and very light, highly sandy. So we know already that clay is so hard, di ba? Pag mabasa siya. So it's like a clay that cannot enter water. While sandy, it flows to water directly. So should be avoided. So dapat mix together with the sun, silt, and clay. Make it have a loam soil. So heavy soil are difficult to handle on account of poor drainage, while very light soils are infertile because of leaching of nutrients. So infertile means hindi talaga tumutubo because kulang ng nutrients. Because hindi yun mag-absorbs totally ng nutrients because they leach, the nutrients leach. So, mawawala siya, madadala ng tubig pababa. So, hindi na maaabot ng mga root systems. No? Kasi may tinatawag tayong leaching process. So, that's is one of problem. So, different fruits requires different pH, alkali of the soil for them to grow well. So medium textured silt loam or fine sandy loam makes good orchard soil. So porous, aerated, and deep soil should be preferred for fruit cultivation. So dapat porous means buhaghag ang yuta. So buhaghag ang lupa. Easily to water, the water will not leach because of too much sand, no? Parang ganyan. So, the ideal orchid soil should be at least 1.8 meter deep, having a uniform texture, well-drained, okay, non-saline, and fertile, of course. Must be fertile for us to grow fruit trees more productive. So soils with a poor subsoil stratum should be avoided. Fruit tree will not grow well if there is solid rock or permanent water close to the surface of the soil. So subsoil with a hard pan or pebbles within 120 centimeter of the surface soil should not be choose. So most fruit plants like slightly acidic to neutral soil reaction or pH from 6 to 7. So neutral is 7. So some fruit species can sometimes tolerate little more acidic or alkaline medium, but too acidic or too alkaline soil should be avoided. So, if lower than 7, so acidic, and higher than 7 is okay, alkaline. So, soil with fluctuating water table are not suitable because the water table moves up and reaches the root zone, damaging the root hairs. So, root hairs will be the one to carry the nutrients, while the root or the main primary roots will carry the water up to the stem and the other parts of the body of the fruits. So when the water tables goes down, the trees will shallow root system struggle for moisture and nutrients, causing reduction in growth and vigor of trees. Thus, soils having water table depth of less than 3 meters are not usually preferred for establishing an orchard. So some fruits, however, such as mango, grape, lime, burr, custard apple, avocado, and cashew, do well on for a wide range of soil type. So we need to establish an orchard with water table less greater than 3 meters for them to actually penetrate the root systems lower. So, ang roots, sila yung bababa, kukuha ng nutrients sa lupa and tubig for them to grow well. Kasi magiging stunted ang plants if they will not reach the minimum requirement of the water. Okay? Because also water carries the nutrients. If you fed them with fertilizers and nutrients, but then there is no water that will dilute the nutrients up to the body of the plants. So, anong tawag dito? Decline gihapon siya or dili gihapon wala gihapon plus, 'di ba? So, it needs water. So, soil and water management in relation to horticultural crops. After layout, the orchard, planting of the fruit trees, the farmer is interested in the optimum growth of trees and maximum production of fruit. Of course, we aim for the maximum production of each fruit. We will not waste time just farming, just planting, but then having lower production. So no. So soil management, cultivation of intercrop, irrigation, and manuring are the factors to be considered for getting economic return from it. So ROI, return of your investment, and maintain the health of the trees. So for the soil management practices such as cultivation or the interculture, the weeding, the mulching, the sod culture, and other various systems used in different parts of the country and different country as well. So that's the way from the cultivation, how you prepare the land, your place, how to fertilize, the weeding, the watering system, and even the mulching to avoid evaporation of water from the soil to high to upper part of the system. I mean the air. So first we have cultivation or the clean cultivation. So cultivation of orchard soil is important term. Incorporate fertilizers and green manure and to facilitate absorption of water in the soil and also increase the biological activities of soil due to better aeration. Deep tillage is not important in orchards because it may cause injury to the roots of the trees. So, it will damage the root system. You know already that I said kanina na root system, the primary root, the secondary root will look for the water while the root hairs carries the nutrients to the parts of the plants. Second is mulching. Try to look at the picture. That is mulching. It is the system in which materials like hay, straw, or cut grasses or plastic sheets spread over soil surface, mulching, preventing evaporation of water from the soil, and it also improves structure and aeration by reducing raindrop impact. Okay. Pag umuulan, hindi directly makasira sa root system, hindi mababanlas. And for the mulching, it will protect the soil not to easily evaporate the moisture given by the iyang palibot, the circumference of the plant. So third is the weeding. There should be the removal of weeds so as to facilitate other operation like irrigation and manuring. You know that weeding is the process in which to avoid the competency or the competence between the other nutrients from the soil system. So walang kompetensya. So fourth is intercropping. The crop which are raised in the orchard for increasing the income from land are considered as intercrops. Examples are vegetables, pulses like mga legumes. Okay, short duration fruit crops like banana, papaya, pineapple, and others can be grown in the orchards. So, set as the example at the picture, we have banana and intercrop with papaya. So these fruit trees, which are used as intercrops, are also known as filler crops. So second is we have cover crop. The crops grown to cover the soil to protect it from soil erosion. Examples are grasses, the pulses, the mung, the cowpea, and the peas. Another cover crop use are the Arachis mintoy or the Australian peanut to cover the soil to prevent soil erosion. Third is the green manuring. The crops grown in the orchards and after certain growths, they are buried in the soil for addition of organic manure like sun hemp and cowpea and others. So green manuring, you can also use mongo. Mongo at the first stage, the growth stage, diba? We have the growth stage and its reproductive, vegetative stage and reproductive stage. When it reach into reproductive stage in which nag-flowering na siya, ang mongo, you can cut the plant or just till. You can till, no? Or daro ang term. You can use that because of the rhizobia creation, diba? Because of the nitrogen fixing bacteria, the rhizobia that fix the nitrogen in the atmosphere and will help your fruit trees to have some nitrogen without applying inorganic fertilizer like urea and ammonium sulfate, ammonium phosphate that will help plants to grow. But then this green manure is a cheap method to give back nutrients to the soil. So next is manuring. Fruit trees take large amount of nutrients from soil for their growth. So for maintaining fertility of soil in orchards, manures and fertilizer are added in the soil. You can use organic fertilizers, manures like cow manure, goat manure, and use as organic fertilizers. So first, we have organic manures, compost, the FYM, the oil cakes, improves the physical condition of the soil and adds some nutrients. It also improves the physical condition by increasing the pH level of the soil from 7 to 8, which is alkaline. Second is fertilizers. Among chemical fertilizer like urea, ammonium sulfate, sulfate phosphate, the DAP are common. So application of fertilizer is depend on the soil and climatic conditions and kind and age of the crops. So therefore, we need some soil analysis for every crops that we are going to put in the certain area for you to compute the needed nutrients and not to harm the soil as well as you will not waste um, fertilizers and money to apply fertilizers which cannot be used by the plants. So example is you are hungry, then you eat 5 hamburgers, then you are full. Can you eat another hamburger? No, because you are full. That is the scenario of the plant. If they have some nutrients absorbed from the root system and from the soil, they will stop, and that nutrients will be the negative effect because that is inorganic fertilizer, which also harms the soil, which become acidic. And the second is you're wasting your money because every grams of fertilizer costs you a penny. So for the location, full sun is vital to fruit trees' survival. Also important is well-drained soil. Certain varieties are more forgiving of less than perfect conditions. So fruit trees are not only beautiful addition to any landscape, but once they are start producing, how wonderful to walk to your backyard and pick delicious organic fruit for your family. And not for we know Filipino, we have some trees, and even we are in province area, we have trees and fruit trees um, within our backyards, di ba? So for the planting, fruit trees that drop their leaves every year or the deciduous trees are usually sold in containers during the growing season and bear root during the dormant season. It's very important to the health of the fruit of your fruit trees that you plant bare root trees as soon as you can after buying them. So some of us buy some seedlings. So take care of it. So dig the hole about twice as large as the container or the root ball of your tree. Make sure to fill in the hole with a mix of native soil and the soil building compost like manures and organic fertilizer. Cover the top with 2 to 3 inches of compost or mulch. If your soil is very clay-like, you may need to add some gypsum to the hole as well. But then you can have some basal nutrients for like complete fertilizer and ammonium sulfate for your plants. So most fruit trees are pretty low maintenance once they're established, but if you pay attention to them and provide proper care, you'll get a more abundant, flavorful harvest because some tradition put some sugars on the root system of the trees for them to have sweet fruits. So for fertilizing, it's common practice for commercial fruit tree growers to regularly fertilize their trees. If you are a backyard grower, it's likely your trees only need a bit of fertilizer now and again, according to most home growers. So pay attention to your trees' growth. If they're growing well, they're getting all the nutrients they need and fertilization is unnecessary. But if they're not doing well, apply a high nitrogen organic fertilizer in the early stage to give them a needed boost. So during the growth stage of the fruits and other plants, you must need they must they need urea, ammonium phosphate, ammonium sulfate for them to have some nitrogen because of its grown stage for their leaves and the system. But when it's flowering, you can add potassium and phosphorus. However, if they continue to grow poorly, you may have soil that is deficient in other nutrients. So you can get your soil professionally tested, like I said kanina, that it must be soil analyzed. Nag-test ka and send for soil analyzation. So your tree should be thriving in no time. So you can put some fertilizer needed, exactly needed by your plants. So what is the best soil for fruit trees? So the perfect soil yields the tastiest fruit. So the perfect soil is a delicate balance of texture, the depth, the acidity and content, but it's not an achievable one because perfect may be uh, not productive. Diba? So in general, fruit trees thrive best in well-drained soil with a sandy, loamy texture. If there's too much clay or too many rocks, it can be difficult for a fruit tree to flourish. Soils that are lacking in nutrients also make it challenging for fruit trees to produce tasty, juicy fruit. So while the option exists to buy ready-made potting soil for your fruit trees, it's always best to have complete control over the soil mixture you use. So what is the best soil for plants? Equal proportion of sand, peat, and bark usually render a pretty good fruit tree soil mix. So that's the best choice. So we have some ratio, diba? Some who used 1:1:1 ratio. So for the pH levels and fertilizer, on top of the contents and texture of your soil, you should also check its pH levels. Testing for pH levels in soil may seem fairly technical, but there's really nothing to it. There are a number of basic pH level checking kits out there that can be used to carry out home testing. If your soil happens to be fairly acidic, you'll need to raise its pH levels to find a balance that's much more in line with the optimum environment for fruit trees. Lime juice can help to balance the pH level of an overly acidic soil. Some have limes, no, the amendments that will help to raise the pH level of the soil. So we have here the acidic, the neutral, the alkaline, and the highly alkaline. So from the numbers above, we have the pH levels from 0 to 14. So for the apply lime, you can apply lime when you have some results from 0 to 5 pH. So nutrients deficiencies and toxicities like iron, magnesium, and aluminum. So the ideal pH for plant growth will be between 5.5 to 8. So for the alkaline, 8 to 9. And the highly alkaline is nutrient deficiencies, toxicities, which is considered tolerant species. So fruit trees also needs lots of fertilizer all year long. It helps them to yield more fruit. In fact, it's a good idea to add fertilizer to your fruit tree container on a monthly basis, unless you opt for a slow release fertilizer. In this instance, you'll only need to add new fertilizer every 3 months or so. So planting with care. But even if you manage to find the perfect soil mix, you'll still need to plant your fruit tree with care and know-how in order to reap the best possible results. When it comes to planting fruit trees, there are two main areas to consider: the container size and positioning. So to give your fruit tree the room that it needs to grow, optimum for a 10 to 15 gallon container. It's big enough to give the tree the support that it needs, but it's not so big that it's difficult to move around. If there's one thing that most people want from a container plant, it's to be able to move it from one place to another without too much effort. You'll be able to bring the tree inside when the weather gets too cold or shift it in the shade when it's hot. So we have some bonsai fruits. You can use that, but when fruits from orchards, you cannot carry that in your home. So for the second topic is climatic adaptation of fruits and nut crops. So the strictly tropical fruits and nuts, this group not only fails to withstand freezing temperature but may be injured by prolonged exposure to temperature and many degrees above freezing. Thus, the banana is reported to be well adapted only to regions where the temperature never goes below 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So, the distribution of fruit and nut crops in the world is determined by almost entirely by climatic factors. So, the most important of which is temperature, of course. These crops can be classed in three groups based on their climatic requirements. So we have here the strictly tropical fruits and nuts. As I said kanina, we have which banana cannot never goes below 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So the most important fruit crops in the groups for the strictly tropical crops and nuts are banana, breadfruit, the mango, the papaya, the durian, the anonas, we can use atis or guyabano, the sapotes, the mangosteen, the coconut, and the cashew nuts. So coffee and cacao, while not horticulturally considered fruits or nuts, are in the same group of plants from the standpoint of climatic requirements. The examples we have also pineapples are adapted to only slightly cooler condition than the other fruits listed. So for the subtropical, this is the second part of the type of the fruits. The subtropical fruits, plants in this group will endure temperatures slightly below freezing without injury. We have here orange, grapefruit, lemon, lime, avocado, lychee, the olives, and the dates. So these fruits will withstand more cold than those in the first group and apparently require some cool weather for proper development. They do not grow well in strictly tropical climates. So the trees bearing these fruits, like those of the tropical group, are characteristically evergreen and none of them are sufficiently hardy to withstand severe freezing. So third is the hardy fruits. So these are produced on deciduous trees or bushes. During dormant season, go into rest period, which it takes a period of cold weather to break down. Most of them, while dormant, will stand temperature for far below freezing because of their requirement of a period of cold in order to develop normally. They are unadapted to tropical climates like pears, plums, apples, grapes, blackberries, strawberries, pears, and cherries. So strawberries are evergreen plants on only semi-hardy which survive in cold latitude because of their low growth habit and protection of snow and other cover. So here in the Philippines we grow strawberries but in Baguio which has lower temperature. So for subtropical fruits, the climatic belt where subtropical fruits are produced, as the name indicates, is between the true tropics, where frost never occurs, and the belt in the temperate zone, where normally the temperature often falls below freezing. So we have here the temperature belt. We have zones, the frigid, the temperate, the torrid, the temperate, and the frigid. So that's the globe. So that's the Earth. So we have Arctic Circle, the Tropic of Cancer, the Equator, which is the red line, Tropic of Capricorn, and the Antarctic Circle, which is from the north, the coldest one. So this intermediate belt is not confined within exact latitude limits. Its boundaries vary growing to other factors that influence climate, such as land elevation, ocean currents, large inland bodies of water, and the protection of mountain ranges. Within this belt are two general types of climate. We have humid and semi-arid. In this brief summary, the citrus fruits, the dates, and the figs are considered as typical examples of subtropical fruits. So for the citrus fruits including the familiar sweet orange, the grapefruit, the lemon, and the lime are cultivated in both humid and semi-arid regions and are interesting from the standpoint of climatic requirements for successful commercial culture. So it is estimated that 35 inches of water a year is needed for the production of normal citrus crops. So that's all for today. Thank you.